Happy Saturday to you. Yesterday, I talked about what we cannot ignore here in St. Stephen, perhaps the most acute pain point, in addition to, I suppose, many of us not having family doctors. That is definitely a provincial issue, or we want to get a collaborative care clinic here. We want our hospitals to improve. Again, that feels a lot more provincial, but the municipality does earmark some money to incentivize doctors and nurse practitioners to come here. And that is an example of how something might be technically in the provincial realm, but municipalities do need to step up and provide measures, pass policies, and even bylaws around making it easy for provincial services to come to their municipality. It's just a reality of what we're living with. That's happening all across Canada. The worst thing a municipality can do right now is put their hands in their pockets and say, that's not our responsibility. That's not our level of government. So yesterday, the last couple of days, I've talked about the responsibilities of levels of government. And one of the things here that is a clear overlap in this candidates document, but as I've said, it's more like a resident 101, really, really helpful, is the fourth one here. It says housing. Providing affordable housing and addressing homelessness is incumbent on multiple levels of government. And we are seeing that the provincial government just made an announcement. I talked about how CHCO was reporting on this just yesterday. In this budget, the report was $150 million, but now it's $300 million apparently, as we kind of get our stories straight, for more affordable housing units, and that's really important, and some of that money being earmarked for bridge housing, transition housing, supportive housing, that kind of thing, which means it is crucial for our municipality to be on the starting block and make things ready. Now, just this past calendar year, the province did earmark some money for the Municipal District of St. Stephen, acknowledging that we do have 50 to 70 folks who are living rough, who are experiencing homelessness. It is almost city level proportions here in our municipality. It's outsized in terms of ratios of population to people that are living rough. And it is crucial that we solve this challenge together. What we have seen, though, from this current government, municipal government, is, not taking action because the feeling is the province isn't adequately sharing a plan, taking responsibility. And I would say whether or not that was warranted, again, I'm not on the inside of that. I've read the reports. I've talked in the public comment period about it. I am on the board of Neighborhood Works, so I need to say that, but I'm not speaking for the board. I'm not speaking for Neighborhood Works. I'm just somebody who knows about this issue, and is as your mayor, I will jump into this with both feet because it is crisis level. We do not want to see the shelter continue to be the only place where people can go. Likewise, the police, who are getting called a lot for people who are living rough, who have mental health issues, addiction issues, using in public. Unfortunately, our justice system is just not covering off what the police can do. The police can't throw someone in the slammer and make them disappear. That is just not the society we live in. That's not our criminal code. So what does a municipality do? Well, I said yesterday, what we need is transitional housing to alleviate the pressure on the shelter, and that is what I want to talk about today. So, there's a few factors where we talked about how we're sharing this. This is incumbent on us, our level of government. We've talked about our municipal plan. We do have a plan for alleviating homelessness. There's literally a couple of areas zoned in our zoning plan and our municipal plan for transitional housing. So I want to talk, what is transitional housing? Well, I just want you to think, kind of like a thought experiment with me. If you are trapped in homelessness, let's say, you're pushed out of a home, you can't afford a home, you don't have a job, you have addiction, you don't have any loved ones or anyone who opens their doors to you. Where can you go? Well, you're going to sleep outside, you're going to sleep in the rough, you're going to sleep in parks, in the woods, wherever you can. That's the reality. Just put yourself in there, in that scenario with me for a moment. Now, that was happening a couple years ago when there was no out of the cold and we had no shelter availability in our entire municipal district of St. Stephen. The shelter then opened and it is crowded, right? Beds are full every night. There's 22 to 30 people sharing that space, and there are rules, there are regulations, there are boundaries. on that property, but outside and around that property, there are folks who are not good neighbors. Face it, they're causing disturbances. Emergency vehicles need to go to the shelter very often. A shelter, an emergency shelter, is a critical service in any municipality, I would argue, because there's always going to be people who suddenly find themselves with nowhere to go during the night, and we'd like to have a place for them. But what if the shelter was 5 to 10 people every night, worst case scenario, highest volume, and all the other people who need the shelter, 30, 40, 50 plus people who use it, whether regularly on a rotation basis, had somewhere to go, somewhere to stay. Now, there's a couple models around how to solve this problem. There's kind of like you could say the earned merit housing model, where, and the rationale around this says you're in a shelter, you're surrounded by addicts, you're constantly being pushed drugs, maybe you use yourself, and then you're struggling with addiction. Well, it's incumbent on you to get clean, which is a provincial service. It's incumbent on you to get all your proper IDs, which many people who are struggling with homelessness do not have. It's incumbent on you to get a job, be able to earn some money. And of course, if you're on the government rolls, you would get social assistance. But it's incumbent on you to get all those ducks in a row, and then you can leave the shelter and be placed into transitional housing. You can be given a place that is your own. Housing First, I mentioned yesterday, is how Finland completely eradicated their homelessness problem. Let's not say completely. There's always a fraction of a percent. Some people always need extra help. There's exceptions to the rule. But what they did is they reversed that process. They said housing is a right, which means someone can have their own little space, their own bed, their own little kitchenette, their own little bathroom. So they can clean up, they can cook for themselves a little bit, and that means then they have a fighting chance at getting out of addiction, putting themselves in a program where then they can come back to their own space and not be literally in the same room as people who are using or trying to get them to use. They can get their IDs. They can sleep at night. They can recover from illness. They can then have an address to call their own and potentially fill some jobs. That, let's face it, in St. Stephen, there's always places that are looking for someone to work. It's just, I see the signs everywhere all the time. And so that is the kind of trajectory that is the Housing First model. That is what we need here in St. Stephen. Now, that was in the works the last few months. There was a location earmarked in the plan, 199 Union Street behind the fire hall. If you followed my personal page, I literally did a 1-hour video on this, multiple videos on this, really going into detail. Don't have that kind of time here today. But what I do want to do here is dispel the idea that Housing First means taking anyone in any condition with any sort of behavioral objections or problems, and just put them in a place, and that's permanent, and that's where they are. And so the neighborhood starts to become a place of dereliction, a place of dealing, a place of disruption and disorder. That is absolutely not the model that is out there. And this surprises a lot of people. But when that place was earmarked, 199 Union, the reason for that is it's municipal land. So the municipality said, because it's in our municipal plan, the zoning. There's also a place next to the hospital. Horizon has something to say about that, but it is, again, you can talk about the municipal zoning, but 199 Union is municipal. It was behind the fire hall, and that was the way the municipality could have cleared that land, made it available, and placed transition housing there in, I would say, one of the lowest impact areas in our home municipality, and it would be funded by the province. Now, there was already consulting happening with the neighbors. That was a process that was cut short when, inexplicably, again, I'm not on the inside, I have not had a good answer for it, staff and council determined that the site was not suitable. I spoke at public comment period. I said we have a responsibility to do this. But for some reason, that site is now off the table. But the province was there with the money saying, we really hoped this would go through. And I say this as somebody who is familiar with what was going on in Neighborhood Works. You can read the full transition housing bridge housing, it's technically called, on the Neighborhood Works website. It's right there. You can look at the proposal. There were, questions around how it would run. So what I want to introduce you real quick, and I'll put the link for this document, is what bridge housing actually is. This is from the Canadian Association to End Homelessness. It was prepared by a consulting group. It is the model of housing first that works. Again, I want you to make sure that you understand that it is not just a place with doors open and anybody can behave however they want, come and go, etc. No. So the first part of this document, I'll just take you through it really briefly as time allows here. Who is bridge housing for? It's for a very specific clientele. It's not a resource or service for anyone experiencing homelessness. Now, why is that? Well, because part of the housing continuum is we need to get people out of the shelter, but people who are willing to comply with essentially being a good neighbor. Now, again, this does not mean that somebody needs to be free of addiction in order to have their own space. That's really cart before the horse. People cannot get out of addiction when they don't have their own place to go at night, to be away from users, to be away from the pressure of using. So what does that mean? People say, well, there's going to be addicts living there. Yes, people experiencing addiction will be in transition housing, bridge housing. But this is not meant to duplicate the shelter. It's not meant to be another shelter, but it is the step for alleviating the shelter. Now, let me just go over briefly the program model, because this is really going to surprise you. It did when I learned about this months ago. Bridge housing is a safe, structured environment. It's a fenced area. There is 24/7 staff. Everybody who comes checks themselves into the bridge housing program, essentially, okay? So admission begins with an explanation of the program. Staff are there. There's expectations, and people who stay there are actually called participants, okay? Again, not just open door like a shelter. Do you need a place to stay tonight? No. You admit yourself to this program as a participant, and you give informed written consent to participate in the services, data collection for HIFIS. That's a whole other conversation for another time. It kind of tracks people who are experiencing homelessness and poverty. And then there's an intake and needs assessment. So if you were to come to this place, say, I need to get out of that shelter, I want to get my life in order, can I participate in this bridge housing? There's a place for you to have your own little space, your own bed, your own little closet, your own sink and toilet and shower, and you have access to many services like laundry, like culinary space, that kind of thing, and there are services that come on site. But the staffing is really important. It's 24/7, and if you are suffering from addiction, after you get this needs assessment, then you're assigned a caseworker. Everyone who is in transition bridge housing here has a caseworker. There's orientation on entry that teaches you what is available and what you're expected to do. Then there's case management. There's a case manager who meets with you regularly, no less than once every few days. Again, this is what works. If you do anything less than this, it just falls apart. And this is what we need in the Municipal District of St. Stephen. There's case reviews and case conferencing. Staff and supervisors review your progress, essentially how you are being a good neighbor, and if you're trying to get out of addiction. And really the important thing here is then you have resource connections. There are on-site services, nurse practitioners, healthcare providers, cultural supports, income support workers, again, for ID or finding jobs. And then there's wellness checks, and particularly if you are suffering from addiction, usually every 90 minutes there will be someone on staff there making the rounds, knocking on your door, checking in on you. How are you doing? And we're seeing where this model works, something like Fresh Start in St. John and other places. I think because for the sake of time, I'm going to bring you examples tomorrow about where this is working and what it looks like. So again, I hope I've given you an idea about there's a gate, you check in, you check out. It's kind of like a gated community. We're thinking of that for like wealthy places, with the brick and the gates and the person at the door at the gate. And if you drive in, there's a gate that goes up and down and you have to sign in inside. We've all visited places like that, perhaps. This is like that, where visitors are registered. There's times where you can visit. There's times where you cannot. etc. So this is what we are talking about when we're talking about housing first. When someone really needs a place and they're outside the criminal justice system, when they are ready to get clean, when they are ready to be a member of society who's not causing disturbances in and around our neighborhoods, they consent to being a participant in a program like this. This is what the province wanted to do here. This is what our municipality has not made it easy to do yet. Again, there's a homelessness event this Tuesday, and I hope to see you at the Garcelon Civic Center. But this is what I commit to doing. I am a housing first proponent, and that is one of the ways we are going to solve this housing crisis here in the Municipal District of St. Stephen. It needs to be funded by the province, but the province can't keep saying it's your job, and then the municipality is saying, well, it's your job. Well, you need the funding. Well, you need the space. Well, we have to break this deadlock. That's a meme that I've used before. That's how it feels. We've got to end that cycle. We've got to build up St. Stephen for everyone inside it. Homeowners, people who are experiencing homelessness, people who are ready to move on to the next step to bridge housing. And then after that, again, then we need supportive housing. So bridge housing, transitional supportive housing, and then affordable units and starter homes. That you build a house, you help people get out of housing. You build more housing, more people can get into housing. Right? That is really, really important. Thank you, friends. BuildUpStStephen.ca. That's it for today. Hope you enjoy your Saturday. And I will see you tomorrow. So take care of yourself. Let's take care of our neighbors and each other as we build up St. Stephen together. Cheers.